Upgrading troops versus training new troops has always been an argument to have for anyone who's just recently hit T4 and most importantly T5. So in this video we're going to be breaking it down and we're going to be giving the pros and cons of both upgrading troops versus training new troops when you reach certain tiers of troops. What's going on, guys? MEOWER here, back with a brand new Call of Dragons video. So I've been doing a little math. I know, pretty surprising for someone like me who often says they're not good at math. So yes, I have been doing a little math and trying to figure out what the most efficient way for anyone who just recently hit T4 and most importantly T5, what the most efficient approach for them be when they reach those milestones, because those are two of the most important true milestones you're going to be hitting in your Call of Dragons career. So before we get started and start to dive into math and discuss the pros and cons, be sure to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Join the MEOWERS Den. The link is in the description. I would love to see you all there. And of course, if you don't agree with me, I would love to have a conversation with you and see what we can reach together. But on that note, let's get started. So recently, I've taken a different approach personally, and I think everyone should almost do this, is that I started upgrading my T4s into T5s instead of just raw training T5s. And there are a few reasons for that, which I figure out could be the most efficient way. And the same goes if you just hit from T3 to T4 is, well, one, the combat efficiency between T4 and T5, and rather T3 to T4, is actually pretty significant. The difference in base stats tend to add up quite a lot. So if you've noticed here, the base stats are pretty insane in terms of attack, in terms of HP, in terms of pretty much everything for all troop types, not just archers. The mages differential is pretty big, the infantry differential is pretty big, so everything is pretty big. And when it comes to T4 to T5, it becomes even bigger. So the approach of refusing to upgrade troops and such, I made a video about this before where I said that you shouldn't upgrade unless it's during an event. I was actually wrong during that video because I just did some math on it. The benefits of upgrading far outweigh the benefits of not upgrading. So let's just discuss this in math and then see where the pros and cons are going to lead us. So starting off, I did some math from just training fresh new T5 versus upgrading T4 into T5. So a single batch for this is 6,000 troops here, and here 6,000 troops. Both take a differential amount of resources, so one of the cons I'll be saying from now is the resource costs between training new and upgrading. But over time, actually it becomes rather cheaper if you try to make it on the long term. But I will base my math of a single troop batch in terms of time taken for both of them, what you gain in the same amount of time from taking either approach. Now this math also applies for training T3 to T4, but sadly I don't have the actual number between upgrading them, as I'm already T5, I have to do a little flexi flex. But yeah, so training a fresh new batch of T5, this is for archers, but it's the same for almost all troop types pretty much. It will cost me 1.3 million gold, 960,000 ore, and 640,000 mana. It will take the time taken, which is the part that really opened my eyes, is 1 day, 14 hours, 5 minutes, and 43 seconds. Of course, this is with VIP 15 and the max training rates for everything, so plus 40%. Though this doesn't really matter much. It doesn't really get affected if you have higher or lower. It's the same ratio pretty much. And I gain power of 16,000 per batch of troops trained, and I gain an increased hospital capacity of 176 troops, which increase here in the daily elixir production. Though, if I look at it from a different approach now, if I'm upgrading my T4s into T5s, I'm getting more T5s which have higher combat efficiency. But one of the downsides is that I pay more resources. So in general, the difference here, if I factor in both in equal amount of times, which we will look at shortly, is that upgrading a single batch of T4 to T5 will cost me 800,000 gold, 600,000 ore, and 480,000 mana It will take me, however, 12 hours, 41 minutes, and 55 seconds. I will gain 9,600 power, and I will gain a hospital capacity of 71 troops. Now, you might just look at this, take this down in face value, and think, well, it's not actually worth it to upgrade troops, which is where that argument becomes invalid, because if we look at it and we use the same time factor as a constant for both of them, so if we take the amount of time it will take to train one batch of T5 or one batch of T4 or whatever versus training or versus upgrading the existing troops, we'll get the following. First, we pay more resources. Yes, that's true. But in return, we factor in 3 times. So in the time it will take to train 1.6 thousand T5 or whatever the amount of T4s or whatever, you can upgrade or train more, essentially 3 or more times based on the troop tier you're going for. So in terms of T4 to T5 here, because this is the example I'm using, but the same principle applies for all troop types, is that I'm actually faster by 2 minutes. I'm gaining an almost double the amount of power, and I'm gaining even more hospital capacity. So in total, I am netting a higher gain overall versus than just upgrading troops. So while yes, one of the other cons of this approach, you're not gaining any more troops, you are, however, increasing your combat efficiency. And what I mean by combat efficiency is that when you unlock higher tiers of troops, higher tiers will always outperform the lower tiers, no matter what kind of technology you have. The idea of that T4s and T5s are semi-equal when both of them have max technology is actually wrong. And the reason for that is those base stats make quite a significant difference, especially at later on in the game where everyone starts to max out. Every single percentage and every single base stat will start to make a big difference over time. So we can see here, for example, I tend to use archers as a big example. My archers here almost have 950 attack versus T4 they have almost 600 or rather 700. So we're looking at least 250 attack difference. That is a massive amount that just scales up even more and more and more. Plus, who doesn't like to have higher power, because when you're eventually done with converting all your T4s into T5s or whatever troop type you're getting, you're also getting the power differential that you're missing out on. So, one, you have higher combat efficiency. Two, you gain higher power if you like power, but most importantly, you're going to be more effective on the field later on as the time progresses. Plus, you also get more hospital capacity, which is the most important thing in long-term fights. You want to try to sustain your hospital as much as possible, because eventually, wars in Call of Dragon become war of attrition. So, the longer you can last, the better it becomes for you when you come fighting. So yes, just to sum it up, the pros, you gain higher power, you have higher combat efficiency, and you train relatively fast when you are upgrading, so you net higher value. Versus the cons, it costs more resources in the same amount of time, and you're not really gaining any more troops. However, if your goal is to have better hospital capacity, which should be your goal, which means you're going to be lasting in the field longer, even though you might not field as many armies as you'd like, you're still going to last longer when everyone is pretty much tapped out in troops and it just becomes who can heal faster than who. You're going to be winning that race eventually because, well, you have higher efficiency and you have better hospital capacity approach. So yes, if you're going to ask me, should you upgrade or should you train new, I would reconsider training you and just go straight for upgrading, because once you're done upgrading, you're just going to train you anyways. And, well, who doesn't like to see them having the best troops they possibly can? So yes, I know it was a very shocking video to see me, of all people, doing math, but the math and the numbers don't lie. So on that note, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please be sure to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. Join the MEOWER's Den. The link is in the description. I would love to see you all there. And I will see you in the next video. Meow meow!